Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio, so you know what to do. Get involved in the chat and the comments because it's live and we want to hear from you lot. We are going to be talking about what everyone's been speaking about for the last 48 hours at least, or whatever it is, since the Sunday evening. Cristiano Ronaldo, he gave that interview, didn't he? He's done this big interview, this explosive interview where he's been firing shots at everyone. The first sort of snippet that was released yesterday, he was having a bit of a dig at Erik ten Hag and saying he didn't respect him. He did, there was no mutual respect. He felt betrayed by the club. The latest bit of the interview we've seen, he's firing shots at the Glazers, amongst other people as well. So we're going to get into the rest of it, but we'll start off with the Glazers because, listen, a lot of what he said yesterday when that came out about Erik ten Hag, I was unimpressed with. I didn't like it. I thought, why have you done that? I like what Erik ten Hag's trying to do, and I didn't agree with the idea that he'd been sort of disrespected. I thought, Ronaldo's made you, Erik ten Hag made you the captain against Aston Villa. The idea that he's disrespected you doesn't really ring true. However, today, or the latest bit yesterday came out, he's firing shots at the Glazers, which I'm all right with. Yeah, I agree with that. Now, you can see that on the screen. He sort of said there that the owners of the club, the Glazers, they don't care. I mean, professionally, sportingly, they don't care. There are some things into the club that don't help Manchester United to reach top level. I never spoke to them, never. So he's never had any communication with the Glazers, which isn't a massive surprise to me, to be honest with you. And I think the weird thing about this, right, is if this was the first thing that got released from that interview, I think more of the fans would have been on his side, would have gone like, okay, yeah, like, I'm glad Ronaldo's doing it. I think what the problem was, the first sort of big story or snippet or whatever you want to call it from the interview that came out was having a bit of a dig at the manager, and I think a lot of people, myself included, didn't like that. Now, listen, I'm not saying that Ronaldo is doing this because of his integrity, that he's so angry and passionate about the Glazers that, he wants to sort of be on the fan side and get the Glazers out or any of that. A lot of this may just be because he wants to leave the club. I think most people who I've spoke to, most reports I've seen, most people on social media know that this is the end game for Cristiano Ronaldo. He wants to go from Manchester United, and this is all part of it. He's already criticised the manager, he's criticised the facilities, he's criticised now the owners. It's part and parcel of, get me out of it if you're Cristiano Ronaldo. And it'll probably work because I'm going to get into that a little bit later on. But from what we gather, there's already discussions taking place with Manchester United's lawyers, with the club, to try and get Ronaldo out of there, and whether that's by terminating his contract, whether it's some sort of mutual agreement, however that may be, it looks like the club are working hard to try and get Cristiano Ronaldo to just basically get him out of the club, because it's become untenable. It really has. You look at it and you look at the interview he gave, and the fact that, according to reports as well, the players and the club first found out about this interview after the Fulham game. When they were on the way back from London, from the Fulham game, they found out this interview was going to happen. And apparently a lot of I think there's a report in The Athletic that says the players were like watching it on the phones on the way back from the Fulham game. They didn't know anything about it. Even as it destitute, I think Ronaldo's agency, the Jorge Mendes agency that look after him, they didn't know he was going to do it, according to reports as well. I think that's in The Athletic. This was a bit of a surprise to the club and to even some people that are quite close to Ronaldo that he'd done this interview. I'll get into some of the comments, then we'll just get back into some of the stuff that he said. Damien Ahipini says, I'm very disappointed with his actions. On the bright side, we can finally progress moving forward this season. He's been nothing but a distraction. King Dino says, morning, Jay. Do we think Ronaldo is only using the Glazer stuff to convince them to get rid of him? I do a little bit think that this is just him saying this because he wants to go. But I don't mind that, because it's still damaging to them. Oh, not the mic then. It's still damaging to them. So even though his sort of his reasons might not be the same reasons as you and I want to get rid of the Glazers, or you and I criticise the Glazers because we hate them, they think that, we want them gone from our club. It might be sort of the other way around for him. He might be doing this because he wants to get out of the club, not get rid of the Glazers. But we can have our cake and eat it here. That doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt them. That doesn't mean that this won't damage them. And maybe this sort of, encourages others to take a bit of a close look at the Glazers, because I know all the fans do. Fans universally, Manchester United fans, I think it's probably the one thing most United fans, or all United fans, agree on, is that the Glazers have been bad for Manchester United Football Club. And now you've got this sort of being spoken about by one of the players. It's probably the first time a player has come out and overtly criticised the Glazers. We've had ex-players do it. We've had ex-players on this channel come on and lay into the Glazers. But for a current Manchester United player and the biggest player in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo, whether you think he's good enough or not for Manchester United, is another story. But to have a player that, you know, the size and stature of Cristiano Ronaldo, who is one of your star players, come out and criticise the owners and say what he said about them, you know, in such a sort of blatant fashion, then yeah, I'm all about that. We're going to get into the Bruno stuff in a minute. A couple of people asking about that. Josh Smith says, good morning, Jay. You got your brew, lad? No, I've had it already, to be honest with you. I asked to stagger my brews this morning. I can't be having 5 in the first 10 minutes or whatever. Manchester Maverick says, morning, J-Dog. JD and Coke says, Glazers out, Ronaldo out, get in Bruno. Damien Clark says, Bruno. Jan Inget-Hoff says, the Bruno was out of context regarding his flight being late. Yeah, I'm going to get into that in a minute. Now, it wasn't just the Glazers that Cristiano Ronaldo was slagging off, because he also had a bit of a dig at Rooney and Gary Neville as well. So he said that they're not his friends. He was asked about, because there's this sort of thing going on with Gary Neville with the snub. I don't know if you saw this before the game. I forget which game it was, a couple of weeks ago. Gary Neville, who's criticised Ronaldo for his actions after the Spurs game or during the Spurs game where he left early. Ronaldo came over, he shook, I think, Louis Saha's hand and someone else's hand, and he ignored Gary Neville. So that's become a bit of a, you know, a talking point. And there's loads of articles. You can see the clips and all this. I've got one here from the Telegraph, and he just says, Cristiano Ronaldo stepped up his attack on Manchester United on Monday night with a blast at former teammates Wayne Rooney and Gary Neville. And it then goes on to say, when he was asked about the criticism he's had from Rooney and Neville, I don't understand. You should ask this question to him about Rooney. I don't know why he criticises me so bad. He finished his career in his 30s, so I'm still playing high level. I'm not going to say that I'm looking better than him. I think that's slightly tongue-in-cheek, which is true, but it's hard to listen to that kind of criticism and negativity from people who play with you. For example, Gary Neville as well. People can have their own opinion, but they don't really know what's going on. Then he spoke about, you know, for example, inside the training ground or Carrington and even my life. He then went on to say, they are not my friends. So I think there was a bit as well where Piers Morgan said, would you have him round for dinner? And he said no. Gary Neville's responded with this, anyone for dinner. So I think, you know, he's just sort of made a bit of a joke of it. There's some, I mean, you can see some replies there. Without Ronaldo, you wouldn't have any titles. Someone's replied, well, you know, I don't think we need to go through all them tweets, but yeah, I think that Gary Neville was pretty honest in what he said about Ronaldo. When he criticised him for leaving the ground early, when he criticised the way he's handled certain things as well, I think that was fair. I don't think Gary Neville has been anti-Ronaldo. And there's also this sort of narrative, I think that, you know, there's been this talk, and it was in the interview as well, that Gary Neville, you know, is using Ronaldo for some sort of clout and talking about Ronaldo because he's trying to, you know, help his career. He's not, really. I don't feel anyway. He's a football pundit. He's one of the leading pundits talking about one of the biggest, if not the biggest players in the planet, who plays at the club he used to play for. Gary Neville was United captain. Of course he's going to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. How can he not? It's his job to. So I don't buy the idea that he's done anything wrong here. And Wayne Rooney, even less so. I saw Wayne Rooney's comments on Ronaldo, and they were very respectful. He was talking about how good he is. He was talking about how, you know, sometimes age catches up with you, but he's still a great player and he's one of the greatest of all time and all this sort of stuff. He couldn't have been nicer, really. Wayne Rooney to Cristiano Ronaldo. And then Ronaldo's having a shot at Wayne Rooney. And I just don't understand it because it just doesn't seem necessary. And what I hate about this as well, well, just a lot I don't really like about it, other than the Glazer stuff, which I'm all about, is this sort of egging on by Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan sat there egging him on. Oh, you know, he's not your mate, is he? Well, do you think your friend? Oh, that must have been very disappointing. Or that must have really hurt. Because obviously Piers Morgan's reveling in this, not just as a host, but as an Arsenal fan as well. And it just all seems a bit meaningless. And Ronaldo, for me, on the pitch, I think, you know, there's always these accusations, oh, he'll roll around and all this, and he's diving and all that. But I think he can be quite a tough character. He can take some knocks, Cristiano Ronaldo. And the way he's been really precious about innocuous comments has baffled me. These players, Gary Neville and Wayne Rooney, haven't laid into him. They haven't gone, he's a disgrace, he's got to go, and all this. I know Gary Neville on the overlap was saying it's probably better for all concerned if he leaves in January. This was before this interview came out, by the way, so he's obviously, you know, double the case now. But I don't think anyone's been unfair with Cristiano Ronaldo. I think, by and large, ex-United players have been very fair towards him. Some of them overly fair. You know, Rio Fernandes had criticism for being too kind towards him. Roy Keane, hardly the sort of shining example of kindness towards players who aren't performing or aren't doing so in the line. He's been nice towards him and defended him. And then even that muppet, Graham Souness, I know he's nothing to do with United, who just lays into players constantly for their haircuts and all sorts of drivel. He's sticking up for him. So he's had a lot of players, both Manchester United ex-players and others ex-players, sticking up for him. So don't get this idea that Cristiano Ronaldo has been hard done by. I mean, it's just, yeah, it seems a bit stuff. C. Jones says, we all know CR is childish, but the stuff he said about Erik Ten Hag is well out of order. Rebecca Jade O'Sullivan makes a great point. If he just spoke about the Glazers, no one would be bothered. People... SSMUFC says Bruno is a stand-up guy. It wasn't a snub, but you can tell he's not happy with what Ronaldo has done. Yeah, we'll talk about this because this is doing the rounds, this video of the Bruno and Ronaldo on international duty. You can see here when there's a little handshake here. You can see it's not the sort of most friendly exchange, and people have looked at it and gone, "Is this a snub? Is this, has something gone down here? Is Bruno being a bit funny towards Cristiano Ronaldo?" Now, apparently, there's been reports that have come out since this went viral, this video, that it isn't what it seems. It's been taken slightly out of context, and that it's actually they were sharing a joke or something about Bruno's flight being delayed. But you're going to get this. You're going to get people analysing every single exchange between the likes of Delo and Bruno and Ronaldo, or any player with Ronaldo now, any United player with Ronaldo, especially at the World Cup, where you'll see, he's probably going to bump into a few of his teammates, and there's going to be this sort of body language expertise going on, where people going, "Oh, is that a bit frosty, or is that not happy with him?" I don't think, as a Manchester United player, especially Bruno, who obviously knows Ronaldo well, they played together for Portugal for quite a few years now, I don't think you can be happy about that. Bruno basically is United captain, isn't he? He is. I know it's officially Harry Maguire who's club captain, but Harry Maguire starts 1 in 3 games, if that. Bruno starts every single game. He's missed, one game when he was suspended, in the Premier League at least. So he's the captain of Manchester United. And he's got a player, his countryman, and also his teammate, obviously, at United, coming out of this interview, laying into the manager, upsetting everything. It isn't good for the team morale. It can't be. So you must look at it and think, what's Bruno make of all this? The must be part of Bruno that's going, this isn't on. Now, I'm not saying that video that we've just seen proves that he's upset. I know it doesn't. But you'd expect Bruno, who's such a passionate, fiery character, to be looking at this going, what's it all about, really? Because it just seems very unnecessary. Jordan Clark says, Viva Ronaldo. Get involved in the comments. Let us know. Are you still pro Ronaldo? I mean, he might have won a few more fans back on board, because he lost, I think he lost a lot of fans after the first bit of the interview came out slagging off Erik Ten Hag. And I think he might have won a few back with these anti-Glazer comments. So get involved. I want to know what you think. What do you think about Cristiano Ronaldo? I think this, to me, I just can't see him staying at the club. But regardless of that, we did a debate yesterday, me, Joe, and Webby from the Webby and O'Neill podcast. Go and check that out if you get a chance as well. Good stuff. Always a pleasure chatting to Webby as well. I've known him for years. A great guy. Where we're saying, does this tarnish? It's not even a word. Tarnish Ronaldo's legacy at United. All this stuff. Does this make people dislike him now, look at him differently once he's left the club? Now, I made the argument that I think once he's gone and people, in a year or two, whatever, reflects on Ronaldo at United as a whole, they'll go, he won titles, he won the Ballon d'Or, he won the Champions League, he scored loads of goals, he's one of the greatest players we've seen. I think the people will still pretty much forgive him and like him and revere him. Webby argued that it might not be the case, that he might have taken his legacy forever here. Porty's Greg in the super chat says, for someone with such a huge ego, he's a snowflake. Craig Harrison has also, but he's been a member of the academy for 11 months. He says, Ronaldo will always be a legend. Short term, I'm so disappointed in at what he's done. There's no coming back from this. My stance is backing Erik Ten Hag. Glory, Man United. Yeah, I get that. And I think that is the big thing for me as well, is the Ten Hag stuff. I think if Cristiano Ronaldo just slagged off the facilities, right? If he just said the facilities at United and Carrington aren't good enough, people go, okay, yeah, we know the Glazers haven't invested, well, it's not even their money, is it? They haven't released funds from our money to invest into the training facilities or the ground. We know that's something that's been going on for a little while. People are going, all right, then yeah, okay. If he'd slagged off the Glazers, no, he has done, but if that came out, just the Glazer stuff, people were like, yes, love all that. But when he was having a go Erik ten Hag, it seemed unfair. And this is the thing as well. There's reports, I think, again, in The Athletic. We're going to go through an article in The Athletic later on. I think Joe's going to go through it, where it breaks down sort of what went on with Ronaldo at United. Part of the criticism is about the facilities at Carrington. Now, apparently Erik ten Hag has changed that. He's brought in, like, I know this sounds so stupid. I feel like I'm talking about Erlen Baths. He's changed the tiling in the swimming pool, apparently, because that had not changed for years. I mean, we're Manchester United Football Club. What the hell is going on? But yeah, Erik ten Hag, apparently, he ordered 200 grand or something to be spent on the facilities in the training ground, including the swimming pool. So that's better to be sorted. But Ronaldo was unhappy with the facilities, unhappy with the Glazers. We get all that, but it's the Erik ten Hag stuff, I think, which for me anyway, I can't speak for anyone else, left a bit of a bad taste in the mouth. Darren Parry says, he's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy. Jordan Clark says, end of Ronaldo, crying emoji, broken heart emoji. The start of Garnacho, I think that's an Argentina flag. Ryan Bates says, I've lost respect for him saying what he did about Ten Hag. Get rid of him, sick of the drama. Omar Jets says Ronaldo has ruined his legacy for 10 years. After this, it will be okay. So he thinks in 10 years' time, all will be forgiven. Ozzy Gamola says, would love an England versus Portugal match at World Cup and we smash them just to see Ronnie cry. I'll be honest, I'm not really bothered. A.I. Williams says, can't wait for the end of this circus. Yeah, I know what you mean. He's just getting it. I think he is going to go. I think he's got to, and I just wish it had happened sooner rather than later. There was talk, right, of Bayern Munich being in for him. Now, this story came and went quicker than an Alejandro Garnacho sprint. It was like over in a flash. We had this morning. I think this originally came from Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail. Said that Cristiano Ronaldo, you can see it there, and his agent Jorge Mendes met officials from Bayern Munich last week as they're looking for a new club. Christian Falk, who is Mr. Bayern Munich, we interviewed him once, and this is how Mr. Bayern Munich he was. He was at the Bayern Munich training ground with Bayern Munich training behind him when he did his interview with us for the Tier 1 podcast. He was like, oh, look, there's the lads training. He's like, how have you managed that? What's going on here? So you don't get much more Bayern Munich than Christian Falk. He's, he's not messing about there, is he? It is not true that there was a meeting between Bayern and Jorge Mendes. Bayern is not interested in Ronaldo. Now, I will add one small caveat here. Christian Falk got it wrong about Ralf Rangnick. He did a not true when Ralf Rangnick was linked with United, and Ralf Rangnick did take over United. I know some of you may have erased that from your memory because it was almost, it was disastrous. No almost about it. It was horrible. But he has, he's not infallible. But when it comes to Bayern Munich, he's pretty much the go-to guy. He's the Romano of Bayern Munich. He's the Romano of Bayern Munich. So, or the Ornstein. So I trust him on that one. And Chris Wheeler, I think he's got that one wrong, but we'll see what happens with that. It's worth keeping an eye on. I can't see Bayern Munich wanting Cristiano Ronaldo, and I think this is part of the problem for Ronaldo now. The more he talks, the more he does stuff, the more upset or the less likely he makes it that people will want him. Because let's not forget, he wanted to leave in the summer, and no one really came in for him with a concrete offer. I think maybe Chelsea were the only ones who looked like they were serious about it, but certainly not anyone on the continent. There was a little bit of a dalliance with Atletico, and then one of their, I think was their directors, someone came out and said, no, we don't want him. Napoli was looking at him, but that didn't materialise. So I don't know. Callum Mulcahy says, like this new interface with the Twitter feed, looks really good. Thumbs up. Thank you, brother. We're always pushing the envelope, moving this channel forward, and this is something you can see a bit more of on as well. Seriously, says Bayern Munich, laughing emojis. Yeah, Bayern Munich. Do you not know him? He lives in Weast. Yeah, just on this, the sort of the club's response to all this, because obviously, all this drama came out over the weekend. You can see the club statement there. Manchester United notes the media coverage regarding an interview by Cristiano Ronaldo. The club will consider its response after the full facts have been established. Our focus remains on preparing for the second half of the season and continuing the momentum, belief and togetherness built amongst the players, managers, staff and fans. Now, I think there's been subsequent sort of stories or statements or whatever about like the club looking into sort of the legal options they've got. Is this? We think it means is there a breach of contract that they can look at? Are they going to look at terminating his contract? Portis Greg says CR7 is only going one direction, downhill. Man United and Erik ten Hag are going the opposite way. CR7 has misjudged his leverage and he's done more damage to himself. Hit a like, by the way. You might not like what's going on, but hit the like button. We've got almost 2,000 people watching. Not even 200 likes. Come on, hit that like button. Ramon says, imagine watching his heyday highlights now. He has soured his legacy somewhat, at least in the short term, until he gets some insight into his narcissistic behaviour. The thing is, Ronaldo, you kind of know what you're getting with him. He's very egotistical. He is all about himself. We know all that. We knew all that in 2009 or 2008. We won the Champions League and all summer. He led us on a merry dance. He did. And I loved Ronaldo at the time. But when we should have just been like basking in the glory of winning the Premier League and the Champions League, in the same season, the second time we'd done that, the only club that's ever done it, and we've done it twice. Instead, we had all this nonsense about, is he going to go to Madrid? Where will I go? Only God knows, and all this other sort of nonsensical platitudes. Cosmic, member of the Academy for 22 months, says, part of me feels his mental health is playing a huge role in this. Listen, we get the importance of looking after your mental health, and players are human beings. And also, Cristiano Ronaldo has been through a horrible tragedy. Let's not dismiss that. I'm not at all. I just feel like with Ronaldo, this is kind of what he's like. He does have a reputation for having an ego. He is known to be, very sort of selfish and self-centered in terms of his brand and what, he cares more about himself rather than at times the glory or the greatness of the greater good for the club. It's more about what he wants and what his numbers are. So I don't know if you can look at this and go, this is about his mental health. I'm not saying you can't. I don't know. I think this doesn't feel like a character for me. This just feels like something you'd expect from Cristiano Ronaldo. Listen, Daniel Coe says, share price drop, Jay. Possibly. I don't know. I never really know what's going on there. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there. We're going to have a video later on with Joe Smith. He's going to be looking at this Athletic article, which does a little bit of a deep dive into the sort of Cristiano Ronaldo return to Manchester United, how it all went south and what happened there. So make sure you check that out as well. Just as an aside, right? I'm reading a great article in The Athletic. I'm not being sponsored by The Athletic, though we are available if you want to, by Daniel Taylor. Go and check that out. It's about the 1982 World Cup when West Germany and Austria played out that game where West Germany needed to win 1-0 to go through, and they both go through, and they more or less played like a training game. Go and have a look at that if you get a chance. Also, just before I do go, we have an event coming up in Dublin. There's a link in the chat there. I've just posted a link in the chat. We're going to be there, live event in Dublin, December the 30th. Myself, Adam McCullough, Joe Smith, Stephen Howson, and Brian McClare. Chucky's going to be with us. We're going to do a live event in Dublin. Check out that link. Get involved. We want to see you guys coming down there, showing us a bit of support. It's the first live event we've done at Stretford Paddock. We're looking forward to it. We can't wait. So try and get down there if you're in Dublin and show us a bit of support. We're going to have a right laugh. This has been The Paper Talk. Don't forget as well to hit like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.